All right, guys, welcome to the Buff Show. Today we're going to go over how to tour a home successfully as a buyer.
Yep, that's correct. You would think, yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
It sounds pretty straightforward,
It does,
right? Your agent sets it up. You go, you look, you leave.
Yeah, but so
is
many
that not
people,
all?
That's it.
Okay,
That's it.
And thanks for
Podcast
joining
is
us,
over.
guys. We'll see you on the next one.
No, but it sounds elementary, but I
Yeah.
see people break rules all the time when touring homes.
Yes,
And let's just help
these
save you
rules
the headache.
specifically. Yeah,
So
yeah.
we have 6. There might be more because I just added one. So I'm not going to say how many we have yet. And Austin has not prepared for this. So we'll
Yes,
see.
I have. Rule number 1. I think this is probably our most important one.
Really?
In 2024, if you're watching this later on, I apologize, 2025, 2026, people have smart devices. There's cameras and microphones everywhere.
Yeah.
And when you're excited about going to go see a house, you don't necessarily think about that.
No,
Why is that an issue?
because when you're in the house and you're like, oh, honey, this is the or the house of my dreams. I have to have this house. I don't care what it takes to get it. The sellers just heard everything that you just said
Yeah.
on their camera. And that will be a chip against you when you want to get the best deal on the property. And it always happens to be the wife that loves the house and the husband is a little bit more like
Leery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, but we all know who wears the pants in most relationships.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's not it every time. I have seen the roles reversed, but
You're just afraid of the comments,
I'm afraid of it.
the backlash.
Yeah. But so be aware of showing your cards, like just straight face, poker face.
Yeah.
Go in there. It's all right.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And
Maybe have code words with your agent.
ooh.
I don't really like this kitchen. It means like this is an A+ house.
Oh, okay.
Things
That's
like
a new
that.
one.
Like twist it.
Right.
Have fun with it. Maybe say if it's
That would be fun.
a house that you love, say only don't do that actually, because that's another rule. Is if you
It could bite you in the butt.
if you say bad things about the house,
Yep.
they'll be like, because people keep in mind they're proud of their house. It's their baby. It's like owners only have good things to say about their house.
Right.
90% of the time.
Yes.
It is the best house on the street.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
their eyes.
Yes.
And so everything that you point out bad about it too is gonna come back to hurt you and haunt you in the future as well.
You could offend the seller so they don't want to sell to
Yeah.
you. Or from a agent perspective, if I'm the selling agent and I hear that, or I don't personally hear it, but my clients tell me about it, I'm going to say, well, if we accept their offer, they're going to probably easily back out.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like they don't even love it
They
that
don't
much
like
to
it
start
much.
with.
Yeah. So rule number 1, be careful what you
Yeah.
say and be neutral. Like it,
Yes.
don't love it.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
If you like it, you like it. Just don't love it. And and sellers aren't supposed to be watching you. Like
Is there a rule?
kind of like
An unwritten rule.
It kind of falls under fair housing because if they are watching you and
Uh-huh.
they say, well, you said this or you're this or
Yeah.
it can hurt. And that's why I always put on listings like, hey, sellers have cameras. I can't control what the seller does. We
Right.
can have those conversations like, hey, it's better not to listen.
Yeah.
But again, people don't always listen.
As a past seller, before as an agent,
Uh-oh.
we listened in to our baby monitor.
Yeah.
That was the camera we
frickin'
had.
baby monitors.
Always.
Yeah. People don't think about those. They just think they're for babies.
Yes.
But
No, they're live.
they're sneaky.
Yes.
Every seller on their baby monitors camera.
And the thing about it is we weren't listening to be able to like go into negotiations with like a leg up. We were genuinely curious on the
About
feedback on what people thought about our house, right?
Yeah, but either way.
No, I know. I'm not
Yeah.
justifying it. I'm just saying that lots of sellers will do it because of that reason, not
Right.
necessarily even thinking about negotiations.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. They're just genuinely curious about
Yeah.
what's going on in their house.
Yep. So
But there's people that say rude things in the house. Like, I mean, you almost have to act as if the seller is in the house with you at all times. I
Yeah.
don't care if there's no cameras to be seen. They have cameras inside and out. You have Ring doorbell cameras, security cameras, and the freaking baby monitors that, and then who knows how many sellers have just like microphones play. Like there might not even be a camera. It could just be a microphone.
Yeah.
They could just be like hid their phone under the couch on record and just be getting the audio.
Right.
Like, who knows? I don't know.
You don't know.
I have
go in what's the paranoid. Go in like paranoid, and you can only come out better by being like that.
Yeah. And then so feedback on the house. I mean, be optimistic, positive, not overly in love with it. And then don't talk about pictures you see on the wall, like anything, just be careful.
Yeah. And after you've seen 12 houses already and this one checks all the boxes, I mean, as agents, we got to help our buyers remember, because they're going to be emotional. They always are, as they should be, right? Mm-hmm. It's where they're going to spend a lot of time.
And most agents and buyers, or most buyers, want to negotiate, like talk about the offer they will be writing in the house. It's just not a good time.
They do.
So,
yeah.
And then I would also venture to say, be careful what you say outside. Neighbors can hear you. Careful what you post on your social media. Somebody probably knows the sellers. You know?
Yeah.
So just like, don't say something that you wouldn't say directly to the seller's face.
Perfect.
And if you are accustomed to being harsh in person to people, just don't say anything at all. So that's rule number 1.
Okay. Rule number 2, respect appointment times. So as agents, we set up windows. Yeah, we can set it for half of an hour, depends on the listing, but half of an hour up to, call it an hour. And we just need to be in and out at some point during that window. Going long then burdens either the sellers, if they live in there still, then they're waiting in their car down the street for over an hour. Like that's not respectful to them. And then if there's another showing after us, then it just gets awkward. You're passing the other clients, the other agents, and it's just like, we'll go up, you go down, and I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. And giving notice to your agent and the seller. So like if you're wanting to see a house, so many times it's like, hey,
tonight,
can we see this house in an hour? And it's like, sure, but that's hard for me to do. Let alone the sellers. And I have a few sellers right now with kids, and it's just hard for them to get out of the house in that time frame. So give them 24-hour notice.
Yes.
So they can prepare and have the house clean and ready. It is frustrating as a seller having all these showings happen, having to be gone for an hour. You know, how many buyers and agents schedule showings and then don't show?
Yeah.
And then they're like, we just did all this work to get the house ready to show, and then you don't even show up. Like, respect the appointment times if you want to have a shot at buying that property.
Yep.
Number 3, remove your shoes or use shoe covers. Not every house has shoe covers. And so just take off your shoes. Like, it's not everybody demands that in their house, and maybe you don't in your house, but I would say a lot of people do care about having shoes and stuff like that in their homes. There are a few times that I've been in houses where I'm like, okay, these guys obviously don't wear shoes, so I'm not going to take my shoes off in this house.
Yep. You kind of know
when
you step in the door.
If the carpet's trashed and there's stuff all over the floor and you're like, my socks will be dirty if I don't wear shoes, then I guess don't keep your shoes on. So,
and the average days on market right now are like 50 days.
Yeah.
So there's 50 days that how many strangers are coming in and out, in and out, in and out with, if they don't take off their shoes, I mean, that will wear and tear on the carpet. It'll get dirty.
I had a listing where people didn't take their shoes off, and I was walking up the stairs and somebody had one of those
goat heads
that fell off their shoes onto the stairs, and I stepped on it.
Oh,
that was not enjoyable.
You've
had that happen?
No, I think I know exactly which property you're talking about, because I stepped on goat heads when I was doing open house there too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of goat heads around.
There's a lot of goat heads. Yeah.
Those things suck.
So take your shoes off.
Number 4, so minimize disruptions.
When I wrote this, Austin's like, huh?
I'm like, phone on silent? Or like, what do you mean? Don't bring your kids? Or
be
like
focused?
What? Yeah. No, but we came to the conclusion, we just don't want buyers, getting into the attic and having all this insulation fall down, or ruffling the blinds, or
Yeah. Well, how many times have you like somebody touch something and they're like, "Okay, go back up," or like,
yes,
like
you're like, oh shoot,
I
like,
have a listing right now where it has the front door has the blinds inside the windows.
yes,
And the seller's like, somebody moved the blinds and now it doesn't work anymore. And I'm like,
yeah. What do you do?
I don't know
about
who
that?
did it either.
Right.
I could go back and ask every agent that showed
Yeah.
it at this point.
Yeah.
30 agents. But like, just be respectful. Don't touch stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I had another one. This was a big house up in Liberty. And the sellers told me, don't let the buyers, this had like massive metal shades that would come down over the windows. I don't know what for, like in case of a zombie
A
apocalypse.
dooms. Holy cow.
They were intense.
Wow.
And we had buyers, they were writing an offer on this house, and it was a multi-million-dollar house. And the buyers are like, ooh, these must be the blind controls. And I'm like, yeah, let's not play with those. And they're keep touching stuff. And they pressed the button to make them go down. And I'm like, why'd you do that?
Yeah.
And then we couldn't get it to go back up.
Oh no.
So then the seller was mad at me. I was there. I should have been like, hey, don't press the button. They pressed the button. And then yeah. So but we figured that one out. Just minimize disruptions.
Okay. Don't touch stuff that's not yours yet.
Yeah. And with kids,
oh yeah,
be super careful. I know a lot of buyers need to bring their kids to showings, and that's okay. There was another showing that I went to with a client, and they had a bunch of kids, and they had one of these big balls, and one of the kids just drop kicks it in the living room, and it's like bouncing off the walls, almost hits a glass vase, and it's like tilting, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is gonna break. But it didn't. So yeah,
staging decorations. Yeah.
I mean, you break it, you buy it.
Yep.
So, but even down to like buyers like, hey, let me check out the attic. I'm going to crawl up there. And you're like, oh, you're going to fall through. I just know. You're going to step on the sheetrock.
Yes.
Fall through the roof.
Ceiling. Or the insulation always comes down.
Yeah.
When you're getting up. There's no way you can get in and out of that without making a mess.
Let the inspector do that.
Yep.
Because then they're liable.
Yep.
So speaking of that, on my house, when we were remodeling, we had somebody in the attic and they stepped through the ceiling. It's fun. So this one's mine. So number 5, provide honest feedback respectfully. You know, Chat GPT just nailed this list because I like that. Like, provide honest feedback, but be respectful.
Yeah.
And that is, I mean, what more can we say? Think about if you were selling a house, you would want to know the feedback of everybody that goes through there. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you just don't like it, but let's get the seller's feedback.
Yeah.
Right. So tell your agent, we can't give the feedback for you.
Can't make it up. We got to, yeah.
And then as agents, we need to get the seller's feedback quickly and timely as well.
It is so helpful when you're trying to sell a house. Yeah.
I think people just don't look at what it's like to be on the other end of it. Right. Yeah. So number 6.
Okay. We had a, I wouldn't say debate before this, but he was describing.
I said, take the goggles off. And you're like, goggles.
Yeah. I'm like, what goggles? Like, are people going to follow that? And then I kind of like know you and I knew where you're going with it.
I was like going back to the missionary days when you're on your mission and they call them like, what do they call them? Missionary
goggles. Yeah.
Anyways.
We won't even try to explain that one. You kind of just had to be there.
Basically, take the goggles off is like see the house in its true light. Like,
here, now let me try a term that I bet they will.
Okay, let's hear it.
Take off the rose-colored lenses or rose-colored glasses.
Okay, you made that sound way better.
Our video guy and Peyton, I never heard that before. I'm like, what? You guys live on a rock or something?
So read what it says.
Okay. I had to prove that I wasn't making it up.
I wonder if there's like other synonyms for like that phrase.
Probably. So Google said, what do rose-colored glasses mean? You see only their good points, and therefore your view of them is unrealistic. So
that's better than take the goggles off.
Yeah, thank you.
Take off the rose-colored lenses.
Perfect. Yeah. So pictures and staging and the video, everything you see online on a property, 95% of the time, maybe more, it looks better than it actually does in person. That's our job, is to make it look the best it can look.
Yeah.
So people will see something online that they think is their dream house, and then they get there and they're like, oh, this is dinged up. I couldn't see that in the picture. There's a hole in this wall.
Well, or I would add to that, or they get in there, they love it. First date, everything's perfect, and they're in the house. They're not thinking about, hey, how old's the roof?
Yes.
Like early 2000s houses are notorious for this. They look good, they feel good, they feel newer. But then when you actually have the home inspection come back, you're like, hey, well, you need a new furnace, AC, water heater. Your windows are starting to fail, and a new roof, and the siding's fairly damaged, because you're reaching that 30-year point where everything's going to need to be updated. So, and some buyers, like then they get the report back and they're like, oh, there's like 60 grand worth of stuff that needs to be updated here, or will need to be updated. So but they've already written the offer. Right. And so pulling the sellers back from that,
it's hard.
That spot is going to be really hard. So see it for the good and the bad. Like when I say take the goggles off or rose-colored lenses, look at everything. Like, yes, do you love the property, but what are some of its flaws? Because you don't want the inspector to be the only one that's pointing those out after you've already agreed upon a price. If there's common stuff that you're like, hey, when was the roof replaced? Or if you look at the roof and you're like, it's clearly old, then adjust for that in your offer.
That brings on an idea for me when I'm doing my showings. Is it's almost like we need to just let them go through and have their heyday, have them fall in love with it.
Yeah.
And then they'll be like, hey, I think we want to write an offer on this. And then say, okay, let's go back to the front door, start this all over. We'll take off our rose-colored lenses. Now, what's wrong? Now, what's wrong with this place?
Right.
And do a walkthrough again almost.
Yeah.
Because you kind of do need to fall in love with it first to be able to want to take the next step.
Yeah.
But you don't need to wait until much later to take off the rose-colored lenses.
Yeah. And it's better to write the offer in a state of when you're neutral.
Yeah.
You've seen it in both lights. You love it and everything checks all the boxes, but you're aware of what it's going to take to maintain it, to upgrade it. You know? And then you're writing an offer from that point versus being high on the cloud and then
trying to backtrack
from there, because the inspector's like, hey,
right,
all these things. And sometimes you just don't know. Some houses are hard to find flaws. And then in that case, you're probably good.
Yeah.
But if there's a big old crack going up the brick and you can see that from the showing, it's hard to negotiate that after the fact. You're like, you didn't see that when you walked through it the first time.
So we are supposed to, as agents, so that buyers know, we are supposed to have you guys submit offers based on what you can already see, what you already know.
Yeah.
And so if you're not going to offer full list price, it's because you already saw the glaring crack in the wall, right? So that already takes
the carpet or the
carpet.
Yeah, we can't be like, hey, the inspector said the carpet's bad. It's like, really?
Yeah.
You saw that?
Yeah. As a seller agent, they can counter and say, no, that's why we already accepted your lower than list offer to start with. We already took care of that in the first offer.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the negotiations after you're already under contract are for things that weren't visible or known at the point of the time that you wrote the offer. So, but there's a lot of people that they're not aware of how old the roof is, or they're not thinking about that, or the furnace. So those are things to keep in mind. Anything else you would add in here? Do we want to add any more rules? Rule number 1 is the biggest.
That is huge.
Keep your mouth quiet during the showings and don't say too much. Be respectful. Be the person that you would want to work with if you were selling your house.
Mm-hmm.
So
I don't know if I would add anything. I think we covered it.
There was one that ChatGPT had in here that I deleted.
I like that you said like, look, guys, we're agents. We know we're going to work weird times, and we signed up for that. We're ready for that. But I mean, if you want to see a property at 7 p.m. and at 6 p.m.
on a Friday night,
yeah, like we might have commitments to our family, right? So, so I love that you said
this is just for the sellers, though.
Well,
now you're trying to give the buyers advice for but sellers too would appreciate some notice on a Friday night.
Yes, yeah.
Us agents, especially, yeah.
Just for everybody, all parties.
Yeah.
Us buyers, sellers. Yeah. A 24-hour notice would solve lots of those issues. Yeah.
Yeah. I have others I would add in there from the agent side, but I won't. I think this covers it. Geez, I'm trying to remember the one that I deleted.
Must have not been that good.
It wasn't that good. I was like, you messed up there. But
yeah.
These other ones were decent.
Yeah.
These other ones actually were really good. So
yep.
I'm impressed at ChatGPT because that was
it
knows our job.
Yep.
So it's coming for us. Anyways, hopefully this helps you guys as you're out there seeing homes and helps you get some more deals under contract. So
thanks.